Alright, hello then, GMAN 3B. Zord here, who I've got to apologise straight away. I am suffering from a very sore throat. So this is going to be a little croaky, but I'm going to do the best I can. And I might have to sort of race through this a bit this week. Just so I can rest my voice a little bit, because it's a little bit on the someone has installed a dagger in my throat sort of feeling going on at the moment. But week 2 is done. You guys have, again, I'm very proud of you. You've made very good attempts to ruin each other's fun. And I guess we can get straight into the Performance of the Week award, which, speaking of ruining people's fun, Third Guardians absolutely smashed Thermonuclear Palm this week. Just straight up, just all the chorfs, just hurt. Really dominant performance from the Lizards, really there. So Morplavac is the recipient, if you like, of the Performance of the Week award for that 2-0 win over Calcium Kaz. And yeah, when Lizards start out removing chorfs, you can't really argue the toss on that one, can you? So the Third Guardians now with 1 win and 1 draw, still an undefeated start to the season, which is good for them. The rest of the results look a little bit like this. So, Velchutsuren got the admin bye week, so a 1-0 result for them. They got their usual 13 SPP that you get from an admin bye week, but didn't level any players off the back of that, though a couple of players have now moved into range of leveling up soon, which is quite useful for them. Maze of Torment continue their strong start in the opening couple of weeks. They won 2-0 against the Happy Sons. So it's now 1 win and 1 loss for the Orcs, of course, after the Orcs got that admin result, or half admin result, if you like, in the first week against the Vampires. But the Necro, off to a blinding start, 2 wins out of 2. Can't really whinge with that at all. As we saw, Third Guardians with a 2-0 win against Thermonuclear Palm. Elsewhere, Bitten Heroes 2, the Sit Down Boys 2. So a first point of the season for 40 and his Vampires. And it's now 2 draws. So technically an undefeated start for Lord Brainlord, and his Pro Elves. But of course, as always with these things, it's better points-wise to win 1 and lose 1, right? You get 3 points for that. You get 2 points only for 2 draws, which is a curse that I know a lot about myself, if you've been keeping track of my own team. Speaking of draws, Grail Knights Cavalry get their first point of the season as well, as does Zunk. So a 2-all draw there between the Bretts and the Orcs. In what was another bit of... We had both of the streamer showdowns this week, if you like. Very good week for Arcani, who managed to level a couple of his Bretts, as we'll have a look at a little bit later on. So the Bretts looking like they're in a much better position than they were a couple of weeks ago, which is the opposite of what you would say for Dusseldorf Rheinfire. A 2-0 defeat for them to Zmarji Zavera means that the 2 teams who have started the season with the bye weeks are currently 1 and 2 in the division, which is nice. I mean, getting 3 wins is good, especially in these early days. But of course, those 2 are now both armor value 7 teams that don't get that blessed relief of a week off in the middle of the season to maybe lick the wounds and get some players back. So they're both in it for the long slog now, with opponents every week all the way up until the end of the season. But regardless, a good win for the Norse, that sort of introduces T-Code to the division with a bit of a bang. And in the claw off at the bottom, stuff from my fridge. I'm going to say winning 1-0 against the Greenhorns, but there's a lot more to it than that. That would probably involve the word massacre. It has to be said. I have missed a player of the week, and that was from the previous game, Zlatis Marj, the Norse berserker there, who basically just ripped all the way through the Dark Elves, if we're brutally honest. He managed 3 casualties in that game. So that was a joint most SPP, and I've given it to him on the tie, because those casualties kind of really proven crucial in the Norse winning that one. So player of the week there goes to the Norse Berserker, and that's of course a strength 4 Mighty Blow, Paragon, Tackle, and Juggernaut Norse Berserker, which is otherwise known as a good player. Zlati's Marge doing Zlati's Marge things. Okay, so that's the results sorted. That gives us a bit of time now to move on to the injury report for this week, and that looks a little bit like this. So, your eyes straight away are drawn to the most damage suffered bit of the weekly update, because well, if you think back to last week, I did promise that the Chorfs were going to start appearing on this list. Not in this bit, lads. Not supposed to be on this side. So both of the Chaos Dwarf teams, along with the poor old Dark Elves, who've now suffered the most casualties of any team so far this season, with a whopping 9. But the two Chorf teams, 1 and 2 in the most damage suffered this week thing. So somewhere in Ariel, Dwigs is casting a wry smile. But between the two Chorf teams, there are 12 casualties this week, and the Greenhorns accounting for a massive 7 of them suffered this week. As the Nurgle Claw just quite simply went off on one, is the best way of putting it. We've got an MNG Bull Centaur, dead Chorf blocker, badly hurt on another Chorf, badly hurt on a loner, and then MNGs on a couple, with 3 more Hobgoblins with MNGs. So Thermonuclear Palm lacking resources, you might say, for week 3. In terms of the key injuries this week, well, you can see the Dark Elves have lost their Witch Elf, Skylar Dwarf Armor Rhodes. Presumably got her Dwarf Armor from the Bargain Boozers Discount Armor Emporium, because she's dead. That is a Wrestle Tackle Witch. Dead, presumably to the hands of Player of the Week, Zlati's Marge. And Thermonuclear Palm, you can see there with an armor bust on what's really their star Chorf blocker. Desperate Measures there, who's Claw, Mighty Blow, Panagon, and Guard. Well, he is now armor value 8. And that is largely not a good thing for Chorf teams. Of course, that means he misses the week 3 game as well. Also took a negative Agi on a Dirty Player, which is not the end of the world. MNG on a Hobgoblin, and a Niggled Hobgoblin who's been fired, which counts for 1 SPP lost there. Yeah, so the Chorfs really taking a battering this week, and you can see that in the most casualties caused column, stuff from my fridge, the Nurgle have just shot straight to the top of the standings there, with 8 caused in their first 2 games. 7 of them caused in this 1 game against the Greenhorns, because it wasn't even that the Greenhorns failed some dodges and got hit by Deathflaw. It was all Nurgle, Claw, and Mighty Blow and horrible things, although actually 2 of the Kaz just came from a Nurgle Warrior with Block Guard. Another one came from Block Guard. There was a Pestigore with Block Guard Tackle who got a Kaz. Another one was from Block Dodge Guard. So actually the Claw Mighty Blow only accounted for 2 of the 7 removals, which is quite something, really. You would have assumed that would have been the Claw firing off, but absolutely not. He's spreading that SPP right across the board there, is Gingerwolf. So a good week for him. Maze of Torment and Third Guardians having also dispatched Orcs and Chaos Dwarfs respectively, because what is AV9, right? They are both at the sort of just behind, 1 behind in terms of most casualties caused for the season. But again, you can see the Third Guardians there racking up a lot of their casualties for the season this week against Thermonuclear Palm, in what was, has to be said, a very good result for them. On the flip side, Dusseldorf Rheinfire with 9 casualties in 2 games, so we're averaging 4.5 per game at the moment, and that by the end of the season would pretty much suggest a completely dead Dark Elf team, which we don't want, do we? So we'd like to see that sort of hang fire, if you like, for at least a few weeks to allow Siggy Niggy to recover that team a little bit, because he's suffering a bit right now. A couple of tough opening games. But then the 2 Chorf teams, Thermonuclear Palm and the Greenhorns, also on this list for most casualties suffered. So that, you have to say, is unexpected. We did not really, you wouldn't really anticipate seeing, you might anticipate seeing the 2 Chorf teams in the most casualties caused bit, but not in the most casualties suffered. Elsewhere, Very good news. Dead loner count has doubled. We've gone from 1 to 2 this week because I do believe good old Grail Knight Cavalry Zunk got a kill. Old mate, the loner peasant, he died. So the dead loner count for the season now up to 2. And we want to keep that going at least 1 per week, don't we? Maybe try and get 13 by. I do need to check up on what GMAN 9 got last time, so that'll scribble that on my mental to-do list and then probably forget about it by next week. Yeah, so plenty of surprises there. How are things looking in terms of the development report? Well, most SPP gained this week. Absolutely no surprise at all to see stuff from my fridge with a season high 23 so far. That is a lot of SPP to pick up from a game against Chaos Dwarfs. It has to be said. Gorkicidal tendencies are second on that list with 20 SPP gained this week, which is good news for them. And then there was a 3-way tie for third between Third Guardians, Zamaji Sfera, and the Sit Down Boys, actually. The Pro Elves picking up a fair haul of SPP, and they're 2-all draw this week. They all got 19 in total for the week. Now, in terms of key level ups, there were a lot of level ups this week across the board. I mean, Grail Knights Cavalry managed 3 of them, and the one I picked out is King Gaston de Beauguest there, if you like. He's picked up jump ups. That's a POM jump up Bretonnian Blitzer now. King Louis the Righteous, who we featured last week as the player of the week, he's the other Mighty Blow one. He's also picked up jump up, just in case he gets knocked over, and just in case he rolls a double for piling on when he gets to 76 SPP. So yeah, we've got a couple of jump up blitzers there now. Also a level 4 Sir Cadet V2 on that team as well, who's one of the blockers, so that'll be some guard. But Zunk managing a couple of levels too. So one of his Black Orcs scored a touchdown, which is always handy, and his Orc Thrower got 3 completed passes in that game to level up as well. So a couple of levels for the Orcs is always good news for them. Elsewhere, well, there's big news if you're Maze of Torment, because that Strength 5 Werewolf got the touchdown, I think it was, that he needed to level up. In fact, yeah, he did. He got 1 touchdown and the MVP, which took him well over that 76 SPP threshold, but didn't roll a double for Mighty Blow. So if we can cope with it, it's now just Strength 5 Blodge Tackle, which really is still largely fine. So 2 really quite magnificent werewolves on that team now. 1 POM block and the other Strength 5 Blodge. That is going to be a real thing for everyone to deal with this season. With both Flesh Golems having block guard as well. This Necro team, with 2 wins already, could well be in prime position to have a very, very good run this season. Could Witchfinder's team clinically dispatching the Orcs of the Happy Sons this week. Most SPP gained for the season. Well, you can see it's a 3-way tie at the top there between Maze of Torment, Third Guardians, and stuff from my fridge. You all have gained 36 SPP this season, and that, I believe, for all 3 of them, that's without losing any either, which is a phenomenally strong start to this 3B season. On the flip side, most SPP lost. Well, the Amazons, despite not playing this week, are still massively in the lead of that list because, of course, they lost an 81 SPP Blitzer in the first week. But Dusseldorf Rheinfire moving themselves up into second place because they lost, I think it was 30 SPP from that Witch Elf. Banging them straight up into second place. It was indeed 30 SPP. She was 1 away from a level, which is a shame. But you can't level up something that's dead, can you? So, yeah, they move into second on the list. And the Greenhorns moving into third. It wasn't too bad. They only lost in the end what was a fairly... Well, it was a blocker. It was a Chaos Dwarf blocker with guards. So if you're going to lose a Chaos Dwarf blocker, there's worse ones you could lose. But Chorfs at the start a little bit slow to level, aren't they? So you'd prefer not to lose them, given the option. With my throat. Hold up. Just going to have to take a quick moment to have a quick drink here. Oh, there we go. Right, so all that is really left to do there with the development report It's worth pointing out the Greenhorns, by the way, did manage to level both of their, or two of their 3 claw pieces in this game as well. Despite all of the damage they took. So Zamhuarkins now has Claw, Mighty Blow, Guard, and Dauntless. And Fat Jemmy, who was Guard Claw, now has Mighty Blow. So there are 1, 2, 3 Claw, Mighty Blow Chorfs on Trainra's little squad here. So that is phenomenally dangerous. Okay, so week 3 fixtures. So to start with, great news for Dusseldorf Rheinfire. I don't think this admin bye week could have arrived at a better time for them. If I'm brutally honest, they're going to get a 1-0 win and a chance to get some free SPP, some coin in the bank, and maybe start replacing some of these dead players. And of course, with it being the admin bye week, they can't lose any more players either. Grail Knights Cavalry versus stuff from my fridge. Well, with the start of the season that the Nurgle have made, 2 wins out of 2. Very difficult to bet against them winning this one against the sort of underdog Bretts, if you like. So for my official prediction here, I'm going to go for a win for stuff from my fridge. The Nurgle are going to make 3 wins out of 3, I reckon. We've also got the Sit Down Boys taking on Maze of Torment. So that is Pro Elves versus this fairly stacked Necro team. Of all the teams that could probably stop Maze of Torment right now, it might well be the Sit Down Boys, who are 1930 Pro Elves with the ability to produce a fair whack of nonsense. There's only 30 TV difference between the 2 teams, so there won't be anything like a wizard in theory coming into play. Unless there's a lot of bank that one of them could spend, but I doubt that'll happen. I'm going to sit on the fence here and put that one down as a draw, which would be a 3rd straight draw for Lord Brainlord, so he won't want to see that. But yeah, I'm going to put this one down as a tie, possibly 2-2. But of course, maybe 1-1 or 3-3, because that's how ties work. Bitten Heroes versus Thermonuclear Pom. Well, I'm not allowed this one because it's already been played. But we'll not talk about it until the week 3 recap. But I'm not allowed to put a guess in there because that would be cheating and we don't like that. Elsewhere, Gorkacidal Tendencies taking on Umweltschutzerinnen. So the Amazons back after their week off. And going up against Zunk's Orcs. That, with those couple of levels, have improved themselves back to 1760 TV now. They've got a couple of MNGs back as well. There's 3 tackle on the 3 Mighty Blow tackle on this Orc team. So there's actually pretty good opportunities there if Zunk gets a few knockdowns for him to kind of mince through the Amazons fairly quickly. Of course, there is a lot of guard on the Amazon team, but not all that much stand firm. I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that Zunk might have a good chance to win this one if he can use that Mighty Blow tackle early and try and get some removals. There's, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's a deep enough bench for the Amazons. But deep benches don't mean anything if you're down to about 3 players by turn sort of 5 or 6. You can't really stop a drive with players on the bench, can you? I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that Zunk might win this one to give himself a first win of the season. Rivalry match between Zmarji Severa and the Happy Sons. They both promoted from the same division last time out. So that is Norse versus Orc. So again, it's armor value 7. But this time full block across the board. Taking on Proud Wings Orcs. Now, in terms of how much tackle they've got, they've also got 3 tackle players, but only one of them is Mighty Blow. It is a Pommer in Rocker, and he does have Pro as well, but if that thing was to be sort of tied down or taken out by the Norse, especially with a Claw Mighty Blow Yeti in play, then it could be a little more difficult for the Happy Sons. This one I'm going to have down as a draw as well, I think. It's got all the makings of a 1-1 that in my own head. Because maybe the Norse receive and get an early score, and then the Happy Sons probably start winning the attrition game in the second half and come back to get the 1-1 tie. So I think I'm going to sit on the fence and say a draw there. So finally, the Greenhorns taking on 3rd Guardians. So for the 2nd week in a row, the Lizards with a chance to take on Chaos Dwarf. So, I mean, the first one went very well for them, didn't it? Morplavakil have been a little bit nervous having to take on both of the Chorf teams back to back. But he came through the first one, I guess, with flying colours. So now gets a chance to take on Trainra, who took a bit of a beating last week. He's missing a Bull Centaur, which is block, break, tackle, guard, and tackle. He's also missing 3 Hobgoblins, including Dirty Player and the guard. So you have to say that that is probably looking pretty good for the Lizards. Next match TV for the Greenhorns, only 1490, so they're missing 300k. Plus another 80k when you sort of unfactor, if you like, the fact that loners will be coming in. So that's going to be 1790 against... Well, sorry, no, it's going to be 1490 against 1820. Chorfs with inducements aren't necessarily the best team to have inducements. So, all things considered, unless Trainra's Claw Mighty Blow, of which he has 3, it must be said, if that fires massively, he's got a chance. But I'm actually going to go ahead and suggest that it'll be another win for the Lizards this week in what is both in Division 3 last week rivalry game. So there you go. I expect to be wrong. I think it is me actually leading the leaderboard on this at the moment. Although we didn't get any predictions from GMAN last week, so that was a shame. In terms of the leaderboard, well, we can have a quick check-in, can't we? Here it is. As I said, the 2 armor value 7 teams who both had the bye week, Umvelt, Schutzerinnen and Smarshes Fair are leading the way with 2 wins out of 2. The Witchfinder is 3rd, but has earned both of his wins, as has Ginger Wolf, who has also, he's come through both the Chorfs now with 2 wins as well. So in terms of the rest of the division, there's only the Necro left in terms of claw teams that Nurgle have to face. So it has to be said that they've not taken any attrition against the 2 Chorfs, and they're in prime position now to really press on and have a very good season. Our stuff from my fridge. Morplavak, 3rd Guardians, on his own in 5th with a 1-1-0 record. And then we've got the Greenhorns in 6th with the Happy Sons in there as well. And then there we go. So we're going to wrap that up there, folks. So hopefully I can kind of rest this voice a little bit. It is very, very sore. So apologies for the shortness of the recap this week. But there's very little I can do about it, unfortunately. Good luck for all your games in week 3. And we'll be back with another 3B buffet. And I can keep using this dreadful, dreadful pun. But yeah, thanks for watching. And we'll catch you next time.